Story 1. You cannot control other people's behavior or beliefs. You can only control your own. If someone is bullying you and spewing hate because of politics, they have an emotional regulation problem. It is not because there is something wrong with you. Story 2. Unless we stop seeing politics as sports teams, where you support your colors and your side no matter what, and instead see politics as a representation of our ideals, this will never change. Many people do not know why they vote, but they do know for whom they vote. This applies to both political sides. I do not care who you are. I care about what you stand for, not your colors. I vote for different parties all the time. It is a huge mistake to have political campaigns sponsored by companies. Create a public platform. Give parties equal time to present and debate, and ban sponsors. Story 3. Spend more time offline than online. At the very least, you can filter politics out of your feeds. Story 4. Yes, many people are tired of it, but some only claim to be and gleefully fuel the flames whenever possible. People have a sick obsession with politics, and it is exactly what the corporate overlords want. That way we do not direct our anger at them, where it belongs. Story 5. I do not know if it is only in politics, but it seems like people are always putting others down. Story 6. Honestly, I would feel worse if America were just letting all this happen without putting up a fight. The fight is exhausting, but at least there is one, and that is a good thing. Story 7. I work to keep my emotions and nervous system regulated. I maintain regular contact with others. I practice with my weapons, including dynamic shooting. I also do charitable outreach with a local church and some fellow pagans. Contributing positively to my community has been therapeutic and helps strengthen community ties. Story 8. I try to keep in perspective that humans have screwed up governments all over the world. I am living in a part of history when the American democracy experiment has failed. I will do my best to stand up for my country and neighbors, but it is just the slice of history I have been dealt. Story 9. I stand by the phrase live and let live. If you do not have a problem with me, then I do not have a problem with you. I try not to stress over things I cannot control unless they are affecting my family or loved ones. I despise the hate that comes with politics. We should not be so nasty about it. Being human means we have opinions, and opinions will never go away. The big issue is that everyone wants their opinion to be everybody's. If we reflected on the fact that will never happen, maybe we could all take a breath. Story 10. Hell yes. I am sick of it. All people do is assume, demonize, and attack. I am politically homeless. If you break down all of my issues, I would be a conservative Democrat or a moderate Republican. Rehabilitation in prisons, social safety nets, border security, tax incentives for Americans, and so on. But nobody cares. You are either with us or against us. Story 11. Until there is some united stand against the belief that my side's hate, bullying, and hysteria are justified and theirs are not, it will all be a big joke. Story 12. Remember that everything bad in society is worse online. Story 13. There is this thing called the off button. It does not make it go away forever, but it gives moments of sanity and a chance to put things in perspective. Story 14. Put the phone down. Not everyone knows who Charlie is. Not even my wife. The media loves to hype things up for clicks and views. Story 15. I deleted almost all social media. I kept Reddit and YouTube for how-tos and game walkthroughs. Story 16. You should delete social media. It is designed to make you angry and to encourage hatred of other people. Platforms get more engagement from rage, so the algorithms are designed to increase anger and division. Story 17. Oh yeah, I've been tired of it. That said, I can't control it. I just focus on myself and my loved ones. Story 18. I wish people would stop feeling the need to kill others over differing beliefs. Even worse, people think it is okay to celebrate it. I think the internet has hurt a lot more than it has helped. Story 19. I will respond as I always do in these threads. If your solution to the problem is that your side should win and the other side should accept defeat, you are the problem. Story 20. Many years ago, I read an article that highlighted how polarized the online world has become. Since then, people have become more online than ever before. It is depressing to see how much time we spend online. This afternoon, I observed people at a table. The older people were talking to each other, while the younger ones sat across from them, but focused on their phones. Now add the powerful influence of algorithms and a perfect disaster is upon us. Let us not even worry about critical thinking because that seems lost on many people. Almost every app is designed to push you further into a corner, making your views as extreme as possible. Of course, extremism comes with its companion, hate. Pick any extremist group and you will find that they all bond over a shared hatred. Disagreements are not allowed. A milder stance is treated as treason. What we have left are echo chambers with no civility and no room for open discussion or tolerance. Everyone becomes easy prey, and any trusted source can exploit a whole group and how they think. It is not only tiring but also hopeless. We are now seeing events similar to those in developing countries where a lack of tolerance often leads to assassinations and sometimes attempts. Speaking from personal experience, I was manipulated by headlines and video clips that were edited or cut for maximum effect. Fortunately, I could spot it and decided to step back from the brainwashing I had been falling for. All around me, people are constantly fed thoughtless takes on trivial subjects, turning otherwise reasonable people into angry or uninformed versions of themselves. I do not have a solution. A long-term approach would be to teach critical thinking as early as possible in schools, but I am not sure how effective that will be. Without serious intervention, the situation looks bleak. Story 21. Yes, I coped by figuring out why it was happening. It all clicked when I realized it was purposeful, and I wish more people would realize this. The entire system is bunk. It is set up to play everyone against each other. That is why most news companies are owned by the same people, yet they spend their time stirring up trouble about the other side and even lying to get people into a frenzy. When you realize most people just want peace, but the state has been creating this divisiveness for decades, it does not make you happy except that you can finally make sense of it all. What will happen when anyone from any country can buy a politician? All of our politicians are bought. People are easy to control and exploit when they are stuck in survival mode and hate each other. When you realize how easy it is to manipulate any organism, it becomes clear what is happening. Story 22. My job keeps me busy, but sometimes coworkers talk about politics, which does not help. Otherwise, I escape into movies, shows, and video games. Story 23. By realizing there are only two sides to everything, the people who run the world and the rest, the slaves. Story 24. I am, on the whole, on a kill them with kindness kick now. Open a dialogue and respect other people's right to an opinion. Hear them out, however bad or alien it may seem, and never go down the path of insults or violence. Wishing death on someone is to concede our humanity. We must be better than that. Batman. Be like Batman. Be better. Story 25. These answers genuinely piss me off. Turn it off. Don't pay attention. Stop giving a fuck. No, you should absolutely care. Yes, it's awful right now. Yes, it's stressful as hell. Yes, we're in very dangerous times. Yes, awful people run the government. Does that mean you just roll over and accept it? That you lay down and say, I can't stop these people? Sure, one person certainly can't change much in such a massive system, but together we absolutely can. We must stand up against rampant propagandists. We must band together and build a better future. None of this is sustainable. Our country's future is at stake. Our children's future is at stake. Their children's future, and so on. This isn't a fight of Republican versus Democrat. This is a fight against elite, wealthy assholes who benefit from our division. We need to be in the streets, holding our elected officials' feet to the fire, demanding they stand up for what's right or step aside and let someone better try. Will it be easy? Fuck no. But all major movements in American history were fought for. Nothing is won by sitting idle and hoping. Action makes a better future and a better country. We need to get involved in local politics. We need to be on street corners, making our voices heard. We need to start rallying and rejecting their nonsense. Don't let apathy poison you. Don't let your powerless narrative drown you. You can affect change. You can make a difference. You can do this. You will be fine. You must make your voice heard. We cannot, must not, let these assholes get away with their nonsense. And let me be clear, none of this ends with Trump. It will be a constant fight between rich and poor until the heat death of the universe, or until we somehow solve scarcity. But that doesn't mean it's not worth fighting for. Keep your chin up, friend. We'll make it through this. Story 26. I go tech-free on weekends and read paper and ink books. I am reading Roughing It by Mark Twain now. It is about a trip to the Old West and the death of the American dream in the 1860s. Story 27. I am concentrating on keeping my home peaceful, talking with friends, and drinking. Story 28. I drew an imaginary circle with a radius of 50 miles centered on my house, and I only pay attention to politics inside that circle. It is where I can actually have an impact, and when I am upset, I can often do something about it. Story 29. I have been much less stressed since I stopped listening to the news or reading beyond the headlines online. I no longer pay attention to sensational coverage. When the young man was murdered this week, I had no idea who he was. Story 30. I spend time in national parks as often as I can. There are many kind people there. Story 31. About 6 million Jewish people who were alive in 1933 and by 1945 had been reduced to ashes or to unidentifiable bodies in mass graves would likely have wanted less acquiescence to the rise of Nazism and more active resistance. Story 32. If you see anyone pulling out their soapbox, turn around and walk away. Story 33. It feels like everywhere you turn, politics is people yelling, pointing fingers, or trying to humiliate each other. It is exhausting. What helps me is stepping back when I can. I stay informed, but I do not scroll through endless online arguments. Sometimes I catch the highlights, talk them over with someone I trust, and then move on to things that make me feel grounded. Story 34. Don't tune in. Recognize when you are being rage-baited. Both sides have their donors in mind. They support Israel because they are sponsored by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee and fall in line when the Department of Defense demands. Story 35. I cannot control stupidity, so I go about my life and ignore it. Story 36. Ignore it. Politics are important to pay attention to only when there is something you can actually do about them. You should pay attention to the landscape around things like election cycles, for instance, or be generally aware if meaningful movements are happening. Otherwise, I would say it is safe to not think about it and do something else. In general, I try only to worry about things I can control. If something is beyond my control, it is time to sit down and play video games, listen to music, or draw. Story 37. Realize that it is not new. It is a continuation of what was happening before you became aware of it. The origin story of the United States is political violence. 250 years ago, when colonists disagreed with King George III, they took up arms and began fighting. Ever since, there has been a continuous ebb and flow of violence and peace. The Founding Fathers intensely disliked one another. In some cases, they wanted each other dead and even committed murder. Occasionally, they would unite to fight a common enemy, and when that work was finished, they would return to infighting. Story 38. Not very well. My anxiety is through the roof. So I decided today that rather than being online, I would sit and watch Game of Thrones and forget all the politics. Story 39. I have completely stopped watching anything related to politics. When I tell people those who are into politics fuss at me and say I am part of the problem, laughing out loud, so be it. Life is short, and I am not listening to that nonsense anymore. I do not care who you vote for or what you do. That is your business. Here is a tip for politically active people. I spent my entire life working in government, and if there is not a paycheck attached, the politicians are not there for you. I have heard private conversations that, if they had gone viral, would have absolutely shocked people. Stop obsessing over politics and start living. Story 40. You can ignore it. It doesn't matter. Your opinion and mine don't matter. Staying informed is a fucking joke. If it's not fun for you, ignore it. Story 41. I can follow politics, but in real life my relationship with my sister is falling apart. She does not care about anything going on right now because she does not think it affects her. Yet her husband is a full supporter of Make America Great Again and always brings up politics. I kept my mouth shut for years, but things got so bad that I told her I did not want to talk about politics. And now it is like I am part of the radical left. She even texted me about the Charlie Kirk shooting, expecting me to say I was glad about it. This country is falling apart. Story 42. I am not going to pretend that all sides are equally to blame. Story 43. I don't watch the news, and I'm not on Instagram or Twitter. I can't completely insulate myself from current events, but I can limit my exposure to politically motivated stories and opinions. Story 44. Yes, I'm tired. I cope by posting stupid posts on Reddit and thinking that I will be dead eventually. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. That sounds really painful. If you are thinking about harming yourself or are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number right now, for example, 911 in the US, or go to the nearest emergency room. If you can, consider reaching out to a trusted friend or family member and telling them how you feel. You can also contact a crisis hotline. In the US, call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you're elsewhere, local health services can direct you to similar resources. If you want, I can help find resources or talk through what's going on. Story 45. I cope by touching grass and getting off social media. Seriously. Story 46. I remind myself that despite the rhetoric I see online, every day I talk with people who hold a wide range of beliefs on many topics, and we coexist peacefully. Story 47. I know a man who lives near a waterfall way up in the mountains. He can't get any internet or phone service because of his location. He has no idea what he should be worrying about. Maybe take a break from dwelling on fear if it is distressing you. Find something else to focus on, and embrace the phrase, c'est la vie. Story 48. In everything, it is important to remain calm and promote peace. We are all human and can resolve our problems without hurting one another physically or emotionally. Story 49. Switch off the news. I cannot stay in a bubble forever, but I can enjoy it when I do. Story 50. Who says I'm coping? My mental health is in the toilet. I am incapable of feeling happiness about anything for more than about 5 minutes at a stretch, and whenever I see other people appearing happy about anything at all, I assume they are stoned out of their gourds, delusional, pretending, or both. I try to numb myself with copious amounts of cannabis, post-apocalyptic fiction and games, and spending money on tattoos and standing next to actors at Comic Cons. Unfortunately, it is not working that well anymore. I have my pets and my spouse. They are the only reasons I keep going. When I say keep going, I mean one day at a time. Some days, like today, it is 1 minute at a time. I am not posting this for sympathy. I do not expect any. I want others to know they are not alone in feeling this way. I also want to leave a historical record for future generations so they know that not everyone supported this or, like the Miserians on Star Trek, the next generation simply did not care and were willing to hail whoever was in charge regardless of what they did. Story 51. Try to avoid about 97% of Reddit. Not easy, as you can see. Story 52. I laugh because I have no control over it all, and it makes me feel better. Then I just do not get into conversations about it because they never lead to anything good. Story 53. Just do not pay attention, man. That is what they want from you anyway. Live your life in peace doing what you love. Story 54. I took a walk in the woods with my dog. Granted, I was still in the city and could hear cars and airplanes. I was nearly frightened halfway through our walk, but I would say it was successful. Unfortunately, the big dark is upon us, so those days are coming to an end because of work. Story 55. It is funny that the hate and hysteria exist only when I open my computer or phone. Story 56. I am tired and frustrated by politics. When I reach my limit, the best I can do is disconnect, filter out anything political from my For You page, and do something that makes me happy. It is a form of self-care. I would rather recharge and ignore world events until I am ready to catch up with the stupidity. Story 57. By getting back to my roots and reminding myself that before the world went completely crazy, there was one thing people of all political leanings, races, and creeds could agree on. Fuck fascists. Story 58. Free my mind by getting my thoughts down. Let artificial intelligence help me organize them properly. Use my voice. Be proud of my backbone. You're not alone. Story 59. Turn off the television. Get off social media. Stop doom scrolling. Get into your hobbies. Story 60. With the exception of Reddit, I have now removed social media from my phone. I do not want to see what people I know are commenting on. Story 61. I take breaks. I have bipolar disorder, so I cannot follow politics as much as I used to when I was younger. I sat out Trump's first term because it was just too much for me, and I did the same with President Biden. I have a problem with older white people being president when they have no idea what issues younger generations are dealing with. I give President Biden credit for addressing the college debt crisis. I do not know much else besides that and the fact that he pardoned his son after his son became involved in illegal activity. I am still here at the moment because, honestly, Reddit makes me laugh, and that helps me cope with all of this a little bit easier. Story 62. Stupid people overreact to situations they don't understand. Story 63. Look past it all and see what it really is. It is the ultimate division tool. Try to relate to people and vote for human progress. Story 64. Yeah, it gets exhausting. I mostly step back, focus on my work and personal projects, and avoid toxic threads. My energy is better spent building than arguing online. Story 65. When it is only in the news or online, I do not really care. When it comes from my parents, it is difficult. I try hard to avoid talking about politics around them, but they are obsessed. Why cannot they direct that energy and attention toward their only grandson, whom they see twice a year? Story 66. I really like history. Living through a time like this makes other eras clearer. Story 67. Don't respond with hate. If any of it gets into you, take a break and process the emotions until you can return with a genuinely calm, compassionate reply. Sometimes it takes serious spiritual tools. Each situation may require something different. Don't succumb to hate. Story 68. Apathy, my friend, is a powerful tool for peace of mind. Story 69. Close all windows, log out, and enjoy your day. Story 70. I have a chocolate chip cookie. I'll calm down and go back to my own life because clearly countries are unstable, and it shows. Story 71. I generally don't pay attention. I'm neither a conservative nor a liberal, so most of the political noise doesn't apply to me. Besides, the officials in the District of Columbia don't play a daily role in my life. I am far more concerned with my town's city council and state officials than with Trump or anyone there. Story 72. Get rid of your social media. Block subreddits that you find negative or that make you feel negative. This includes news. Avoid political and religious conversations, and set boundaries with people if that helps. Now that it's out of the way, look for subreddits that are positive or focused on good news, and find the helpers. Story 73. I write on my blog and Substack about my life in the hope that it will help someone have a better day. I also have a podcast about the history of the area where I live. These activities give me a great deal of joy and a sense that I am contributing something positive to the world. I am also limiting the amount of time I spend reading the news these days. Story 74. Go offline and breathe. Go outside for a walk. Pet a dog, pick a flower, or hold a door open for someone. Call someone to check if they are okay. Do these things and remember the real world outside the internet and how many beautiful things and people there are. Story 75. You have to embrace it and own it. If you cannot defeat them, join them. Story 76. I try to ignore it, do my best while at work, and be my best self to others, the things I can actually control. Weed and alcohol help a little too. Story 77. I try to call it out when I see it. People almost always get defensive. It is not one-sided. Everyone cherry picks to push their agenda. That is sad. I left the United States, and my quality of life is much higher. Story 78. I don't associate with anyone. It's very simple. I stay at home with my wife, my friends, and my puppy. I don't go to parties. I barely go outside because I refuse to let any sort of cancer into my life. Logic. Story 79. Do not live in the United States. You will still have problematic politicians, but you will not have to hear about them every day, and your vote will actually matter. The incendiary nature of United States politics and the reason it is plastered all over Reddit is that you feel unable to enact change within outdated systems. Yelling into the internet void is something people do to feel in control. Story 80. I think many Americans are tired, but what can we do when both sides include awful people who fuel the conflict? Story 81. I used to ignore it. I keep away from people who are hateful. I know right from wrong and good from bad. I will never understand why some people cannot choose the good side. It is not hard to avoid being a terrible person. Story 82. I don't know much about politics because I'm self-aware and cannot be easily controlled. I was never easily bullied, so my eyes are open. I'm not trying to push my beliefs on anyone. Do not try to impose your beliefs on me because it will not work. Until people have freedom, including freedom of religion and freedom of belief, and until there is no hatred or controlling behavior, we will always be at war. It is sad. Story 83. Sometimes I get off Reddit and listen to white noise, or I watch a movie or show and do something else to take my mind off things. I like to draw, and I posted one of my paintings in the Disney Princess subreddit. Singing in the car also helps. Story 84. Standing firm and focused on business should be the way for all civilized, patriotic citizens. Stop buying into this United States versus them nonsense. Billionaires from both political sides are laughing at us. They are all part of the same green greed uniparty. Original segregation laws were created to separate slaves and workers so they could not compare notes about how they were abused and mistreated every day by their slave owners. When Chinese, Mexican, and African slaves congregated at night, shared stories, and organized, it often led to uprisings and attacks on plantations. Slave uprisings were real. We are told segregation laws were about interracial marriage, which ignores their true purpose. Stop hating the other side simply for being opposite. This is exactly what the establishment wants. Constant infighting and distractions so we do not see what is really happening. Is the horrific violence that happened in Utah a coincidence, or another orchestrated distraction from the Jeffrey Epstein headlines? Even your friend Charlie wanted the Epstein story told completely. Come what may, let the chips fall. I will proudly stand alongside you for truth, justice, and a unified American way forward. We are being pushed toward poverty and authoritarianism because of our division as Americans. They want us to keep fighting each other, so we will not be unified enough to recognize that the same abuses and mistreatment are being inflicted on the majority of citizens in this country. We have much more in common than we realize because we rarely break bread together anymore. Story 85. I do not live in the United States, but what is happening there is infecting everything. It has spread across the world like a disease. I wish they would stop. I no longer read the news or watch it on television. I have not done so for months. Story 86. I continue to be Generation X and do not care about it. Cannot change that. All I can do is keep living my life until we are nuked. Story 87. Take a break. Talk to your loved ones. Reconnect with an old friend, or disconnect for a while. Live in the present with the people who matter around you. Story 88. I have been outside the mainstream parties for almost 20 years. It used to be easy. It was more like being alone than anything else. But particularly since Black Lives Matter and Trump the First, it has become more crowded, and my space feels increasingly vulnerable to attack. I can post the same idea in left and right-leaning places and get savagely attacked in many different ways, all while being told that I am the problem for not buying into Democrats or Republicans. I do not understand how I am the problem for being consistent for a decade or two, while both sides present wildly different versions of what I am betraying my country for. If I am speaking, I am expected to have no nuance or to acknowledge nothing that is not aligned with Make America Great Again or progressive positions, in policy, tone, or even vocabulary. They want you to be pure and righteous enough. Your thoughts are not enough. You must be a vessel for their thoughts. That is unacceptable. I am tired of it. We are seeing political killings these days. I do not know how we get off this destructive treadmill. Maybe stop electing dictators. Stop calling everybody racist. Or let us zoom out to a level where it is easier to remember that we are human. We work best when working together. More speech is better speech. Assume the best in each other. Perhaps I am wildly romantic or outdated, but I am put off by the state of modern politics. It is ugly, divisive, and combative, and all the things politics should not be. Our politics and government were always meant to be cordial and cooperative, and only contentious at moments. It is not supposed to be this antagonistic for this long. Story 89. I live in a different country. Was this supposed to be posted to the subreddit Ask Americans? We are not nearly that bad yet, but whatever disease the United States has, Australia is always right behind. Story 90. I think people who spew vitriol are due for some comeuppance. Free speech requires responsibility, and free speech amplified by a megaphone requires even more. If you exercise none, do not expect others to. Story 91. These past few days I have found myself doom scrolling more than usual. Turning on a movie I like helped me put my phone down. I have been playing games I enjoy and trying something new I have wanted to play, watch, or read. Yet here I am, doom scrolling at midnight again. Take that as you will. Story 92. Living in a democracy where fascists lose elections and racists are demoted to positions where they have no power demonstrates the strength of democracy. By extension, the Murdoch press is shown to be utterly irrelevant except to its demographic of angry fascist men. America should try it. Story 93. I avoid watching television news. I do not think it is the same as it was some years ago, and even then I probably should not have watched it. There is also my faith. I feel I am frequently reminded of God's presence, influence, and intervention in my life. That helps me keep going no matter how negative the news, the world, or my country may become. I also made a positive confession some time ago that bolstered my outlook. I cannot describe how important it is to feel wanted and, at times, needed by others. Story 94. I learned to cope by realizing that I have feelings and personal values. Remembering them first prevents negativity from controlling you. It also helps to avoid toxic places online. Your mental health matters. Story 95. If it were not for the internet, this mass hysteria would not exist. Story 96. Turn off the internet. Stop reading the news. Tell your friends and family that you love them. You cannot choose to stop thinking about something. You must choose to think about something else. Choose happiness. Be kind. Say nice things to people. Story 97. I believe people are fundamentally good. Many want to do the right thing, though some are misled into thinking they are helping when they are actually serving those who wish harm. Bad people cannot hide forever when good people choose to act, even when others try to stop them. Story 98. I have educated myself and understand how we got here and what we can do to come out of it. Story 99. As someone who generally leans liberal, I believe my leadership needs to embrace hate. If someone walks up to you and spits directly into your face, you headbutt them. Do not try to find an amicable solution to get their spit from their lips to the ground without harming anyone else. Story 100. I deleted TikTok and removed my accounts. It was draining me and causing me to dissociate from my empathy. I was spending hours arguing, feeling stressed, and posting. I hope this helps my burnout. Story 101. I stick my head in the sand most of the time. Ignorance really is bliss. I do not watch the news and I block most political instigators on social media. If it is truly something big, you will hear about it anyway. If you do not, it could not have been important. Story 102. It is funny. If you turn off the television, put your phone on silent mode, and go outside, it all goes away. It is as if this is a media-driven war that does not exist in the real world. Story 103. I cope by living my life and not giving a second thought to anyone's hatred. If you want to hate me, fine. I will not give it any attention and will walk away. Story 104. It's getting so violent. It's time to stop. People are losing the plot. Story 105. I take media breaks to care for my own mental health first. Story 106. They made pot legal. That's how. I don't give a fuck what people think or say about me. Story 107. That is what Trump brings. It happened last time he was president. Then we had 4 years of peace and quiet. Now we are back to hate and division. If this is a melting pot, he loves to stir the pot. Story 108. I don't cope at all. I cry, go numb, and drink myself to sleep. Go Team America. Sarcasm. Story 109. I talk to people in real life and am reassured that most are not crazy. Story 110. I cope by avoiding politics unless there is an upcoming election, in which case I get involved to be informed before I vote, and by regularly getting off the internet to interact with people in person. That helps me remember that, while the world as a whole may be screwed up, most individuals are trying to do their best to live a good life, and that gives me hope. Story 111. I am so tired. I wish people would calm down and focus their attention on those who benefit from us fighting each other. Story 112. No, I do not interact with hateful people, so I do not experience bullying. I have a fence and security measures to deter intruders on the side of the island I settled. Having my own island is how I cope. Story 113. All you can do is laugh. Except for Katie Johnson, whose life story burns with an unquenchable fire. Release the files. Story 114. Anything other than face-to-face human interaction with both people in the same room is worthless. Phone calls, video calls, YouTube videos, writing, memes, and news all lack empathy between the parties. They might as well be bots. Story 115. I just returned to social media via Reddit after being offline for over a year. Let me tell you, it's been a rough month getting back online. I'm about to delete it again. The internet amplifies extreme content and repeats it at you, creating the illusion that it's all you see these days. In real life, it is not. Once in a blue moon, you'll see a political debate between two people and you can just walk away. It's great. I cope by getting offline and then poof. I don't see any Make America Great Again supporters who think they are Viking warriors threatening to kill entire groups of people. I don't see people complaining that this or that is offensive, or arguing about bike lanes. Just go to work, pay the money back in small increments, and get to do what you love with people you love. That's it. Story 116. Well, I mute the television whenever a resident of Pennsylvania Avenue opens his mouth. Story 117. Podcasts with empathetic people. Microdosing hope with small victories, copious swearing, and creative ways to gum up the shambolic march of these fumbling fascists. Story 118. I avoid saying it publicly on social media because I feel I could get into trouble. Story 119. When I start feeling overwhelmed, afraid, or despairing, I stop looking at social media and find something to concentrate on. Some of the things that have helped most are yard work, reading, playing simple mobile games like Sudoku, and planning small dinners or get-togethers with friends or family. I can lose myself in Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels. They are not clever or cool. They are just things I like. I also support my town's food bank each month. That feels like taking positive action. None of it is magic. It is simply paying attention to the things you care about in your life and trying to help someone else. It makes the circus seem more stupid, and when you start paying attention to it again, it makes you angry instead of scared. Anger does not feel as bad as fear. Anger can resist. Fear might not. Story 120. I only allow myself to be so bothered by things outside my control. For instance, I have no faith that anyone will ever be publicly named or serve prison time for the Epstein-related allegations, so while I want the information to be public, if it does not happen, I am not losing any sleep. Story 121. Absolutely. It is emotionally exhausting and can make you feel hopeless. It often feels like the loudest, angriest voices are the only ones being heard. My coping mechanisms are deliberate. 1. I severely limit my consumption. I do not have news alerts on my phone. I check trusted sources maybe once a day, for a limited time instead of doom scrolling all day. 2. I focus on local politics. It is easier to see tangible impact and have real conversations with neighbors, which restores a bit of faith in civil discourse. 3. I take action in small ways. Donating to a cause I believe in or writing a thoughtful letter to a representative makes me feel like I am channeling frustration into something productive rather than being a passive consumer of outrage. Most importantly, I try to remember that the internet amplifies extremes. Most people are just trying to live their lives and are not represented by the hysteria. Hang in there. Story 122. It is all deliberate. In the United Kingdom, there is a worrying rebellion against immigration, but immigration is not the problem. Immigrants are not why our healthcare system is struggling. It is due to underfunding and privatization, with parts being sold to companies for profit. Greedy, corrupt politicians and corporations such as Starbucks and Amazon that pay less tax than a teacher are the real problem. They have done a splendid job of directing uneducated people to focus on foreigners seeking a better life instead of directing justifiable anger at wealthy politicians who receive a tax-funded £94,000 salary plus expenses and still dodge tax when buying a second home. Story 123. Just stay out of politics. Avoid the dregs who think the left can do no wrong and the right is all far-right skinhead Nazis and prison gangs. The left is equally terrible and often worse. Story 124. Politics could be bloodless if the right allowed it to be. Story 125. I am a sapphic, leftist, transgender woman with a chronic illness, and I am on several of the right's hit lists. What do you think? Laughing out loud. I cope with my illness using a lot of cannabis and by being the cutest person around. I am going to enjoy life and annoy bigots by living my best life. No one can kill my transgender joy. Story 126. I am a conservative, so I am used to the left always trying to bully or hold me emotionally hostage. You have to be thick-skinned, or else it can really bother people. Here are some of the typical bullshit they say to conservatives. I don't feel safe. After they murder a conservative commentator. I don't feel safe. After a transgender person shoots up a Catholic school. You're a fascist. After you say you want to have a conversation about our political discourse. You are killing people because I drive a gasoline-powered truck. You are killing people because we don't want to get a vaccine. They are always the victim and the world is ending. It's all just noise at this point. Story 127. Tired of it? Absolutely. Surprised that this is where we are after decades of Republican hysteria and sensationalized outrage. Not in the slightest. Story 128. Yes, but that is how it is when one side has only one principle, hatred. Story 129. I keep myself informed, but I do not read the same material repeatedly. I am now well informed about people I know who are becoming more bold with their views. This is especially true of closet racists, fascists, and the not-in-my-backyard crowd. I support everyone's freedoms, including the right to own firearms and access to birth control. I do not support people who target marginalized groups and deny them equal rights. The United States is not a good country anymore. We had our fun, but this is not it. Story 130. After January 6th, I quit watching the news unless it's a major event. Even so, if I see a lot of negative content on Instagram or Facebook, I intentionally watch something light to change the algorithms. Story 131. I haven't been to the politics tab here or on Fark since Donald Trump was elected. I avoid listening to known liars and propagandists for my sanity. Story 132. I ignore it, and it does not affect my day-to-day life. My job is fairly remote half the time and away from civilization. A large number of my coworkers support Make America Great Again, and as individuals they are good people. Some of my greatest mentors and teachers voted for Donald Trump. If anything, it helps keep me grounded and reminds me that even those who voted for bad people are not necessarily bad themselves. Story 133. I'm personally hoping for a giant meteor impact or a Yellowstone supervolcano eruption. I think we're ready for the power off and restart option. Story 134. It was not so chaotic until Trumpty Dumpty and the Make America Great Again movement arrived. I wish that entire nonsense would just go away. Honestly, it makes me embarrassed to be in the United States. All these nuts can go to Texas and form their own country for all I care. Story 135. I embrace the suck and troll the people calling for civil war by calling them cowards and telling them to just do it already. On the whole, it is a complete mess. Story 136. Do you mean the fascism and dictatorial pressure from the right wing? That is almost impossible to tolerate. What I'm tired of is Democrats attacking progressives and blaming young people. Intolerable and tired of are very different terms. Avoiding the reality of the country and the world would only leave me uninformed and open to manipulation. Story 137. I do not associate with white nationalist evangelical conservatives and Republicans who are trying to end free constitutional democracy in America. Story 138. I try to ignore it until the midterm elections, then I vote. Make America Great Again politics really ramp this up, and we must pull back before we go the way of Rome. Story 139. Make America Great Again is deranged and dangerous. You cope by staying on top of and calling out the hateful, destructive actions they are pulling every day. Story 140. If a Make America Great Again supporter gets in my face and says, "Trump for life," I gently push them away and keep going. If a leftist gets in my face and calls me a racist Nazi for being white, I gently push them away and keep going. I socialize with moderate, normal people from all walks of life who do not let politics run their lives. I block out the noise. Story 141. Yes, we are all tired of it. But when one side is literally trying to take away the rights of the other, being tired of it means nothing. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.